Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I am Jenny Medlin, your Missouri Loggers Education and Outreach Specialist. It's a pleasure to be meeting with you, and I'm glad you could jump on for this afternoon webinar on building a positive workplace culture. During today's webinar, your microphones and cameras are deactivated. If you have a question, please use that Q&A feature along your Zoom toolbar to submit any questions you have throughout the presentation. If you have comments, you're welcome to also use the chat feature to submit those as well. I'll do my best, or we'll do our best throughout the presentation to monitor those questions and answer them live. But certainly at the end of the presentation, there'll be time to have a question and answer time as well in case we missed any. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available by the end of next week on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. And then here at Loggers, we pride ourselves in administering your defined benefit plan, helping to serve as a workplace management tool, but we recognize that we're only a pixel of the larger picture. So joining me today are our guest speakers from City of Wentzville, Kara Roberson and Jessica Hoffman. I'm going to hand it over to these ladies at this time.
Awesome. Hi there, my name is Kara Roberson and I am the Strategic Communications Officer for the City of Wentzville. I have been with Wentzville a little over 9 years and I oversee our communications division and our community relations division.
And hi, I'm Jessica Hoffman. I'm the Assistant City Administrator for the City of Wentzville. I've been here about 6 years, and prior to that, I worked at the City of St. Peter's. I've been in local government since I was 17 years old, so I really haven't known anything else. So I think we have a unique perspective. Kara has a plethora of local government experience as well. And we're just really excited that you all are here today. And we love questions. The conversation piece is really fun for us. So feel free to put some questions in there. So we will go ahead and get started. So in 2018, we went a little bit early. So we talk about this ice cream sandwich moment a lot. And in 2018, Wentzville had a really hard time with recruitment. We were not paying competitively. We really couldn't at that time. And so our city administrator at the time sent a very odd meeting request to myself, Kara, and 2 of our HR representatives. And there was nothing on the meeting invite except I have an idea, which if you work with leadership, sometimes that's a little scary. And we all were kind of asking, hey, do you know what this is about? So he brought us in and he said, look, we need to be the best city to work for in the entire world, and you have $0 to make it happen. So let's do this. And because we're all weird, which is maybe why he picked us, we were very excited for this challenge. And so we really focused a lot on attraction. And if you don't know anything about Wentzville, we're the fastest growing city in the fastest growing county in the state of Missouri. And so we have a lot of work to do. And we don't have a lot of time to just sit around and try to figure out what we can do. We need people in positions. We can't deal with vacancies. So this was really, really important at the time. We have water and wastewater. So we have utilities. We have a parks and rec department. We have court. We're basically a full service city. So we're competing against the private sector as well with these positions. So we started this list and we started a group that we'll talk about later called Culture Gurus. And we'll share some things that worked, some things that didn't, and we'll go from there.
As Jessica said, what we want to do today is to tell our story. Our point is for us to convey what worked for us, but also what didn't. So not everything that we tried was successful, but I think that the fact that we tried it is what made it a positive experience. We knew that it didn't work, and then we could go on and try something different. We're going to talk a little bit about the framework to how we got started with everything. And then after we go through these agenda items that you see on your screen, we're going to talk a little bit about how you keep that going. So, oh, this is actually you.
So one of the things that we maybe didn't do as well as we wanted to was establishing the why early on. So we started making some policy changes. We were focusing on attraction a lot. We had to shift to retention. A lot of employees, we heard, I've been here a long time. I didn't get paid parental leave, for example. I'm not going to get that. My kids are grown. So we really focused on employee engagement, not just the recruitment. We also feel like if you have good employees, you're going to increase efficiency in your organization. It increases accountability. And at the end of the day, our elected officials really supported this because when you have good people, we're providing really high quality service.
So we had to start by establishing buy-in. We know that our employees know what's going on here. They are here for a reason. For the most part, they enjoy their jobs and they're passionate. So we wanted to use our employees to help tell our story. So that's something that we actually looked at when we did some surveys, which we will talk about a little bit later. We'll talk about this culture survey in just a minute, but that's something that we got feedback on. So we started by looking at what our employees wanted. How do things function now? What can we do to improve? You have to know where they stand and get direction from them in order to focus on your culture goals. Because as our culture guru team was started, we all had great ideas and we thought we knew what things people wanted, but you have to survey those people that you're working with and for to make sure that you're all on the same page. We also realized that we have to kind of keep up with the competition. We have to evolve or we're going to become irrelevant, essentially. Listen to your employees and those competitors. Why are they leaving? Look at your exit surveys, not just the surveys that tell you what they would love to see in your culture, but also why they're leaving your organization. It's kind of interesting to see where those kind of overlap and where you can learn from both of those to how to determine how to keep up with the competition. And then there's this idea of rupturing the stereotype, which is a little bit, Jessica's going to talk about this a little bit more about why we called this presentation this.
And, I just honestly like thinking about this today and keeping up with the competition. There was weather in the St. Louis area today, and I'm sure in other areas of the state. And I was at a city manager conference last week, and I heard an assistant manager say, we just don't allow anybody to work from home at all at any time ever still. And so it's really bizarre to me that we know that this can work and no, not every single position can work from home. But if we're not evolving or trying to look at the policies to stay competitive, we're not going to keep good people in local government. And I'm assuming everyone here cares about local government because you're in this webinar. So we have to rupture the stereotype and not continue to say, well, we can't do that because we're government. We need to figure out how we can do that within the context of local government. Maybe it's not exactly the same as our competitors, but how can we do that in a way that works for us? So we call it putting our Leslie notepad on. So if you're a Parks and Rec fan, you'll understand that. And if you have not watched Parks and Rec, it's incredibly relatable and you should definitely watch it. But we need to re-examine our workplace culture and figure out how we can do better. Continue to integrate your why every day and then being transparent. And we'll talk about how we do that here in Wentzville too.
So yeah, in just a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about the transparency, but first I want to talk a little bit more about that culture guru team. So that's just our name. You should come up with your own name for your team. You should definitely have a team. You can't do this in a vacuum. You can't do this on your own. That's not to say that we know everything about culture, because I think the word guru kind of implies that we do, but that we're passionate about it. And so one of the definitions of guru is someone who imparts initiation. So what we were trying to do was kind of just jumpstart this, get the culture started, make sure that we were heading in the right direction, get that feedback from employees and kind of continue that cycle. HR is vital to this team. HR needs to have a representative or two on this team from the very beginning because they know the ins and outs of your employees. They know what makes certain departments tick. They know what may appeal to one department or division over another. I think about specifically those decentralized departments, having them be part of this team, people who aren't necessarily in your main building or in City Hall, having them be part of this group and kind of working around their schedules. So if you think about some of your field service workers who are coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 3, make sure that you're setting up this meeting where at a time that's applicable to them as well. We learned a few things along the way. We learned that team dynamics were really important and that we needed to look at not only the people who were just kind of in their career, mid-career, but we had to look at people who were starting out in their career and people who were in the late, almost retirement ages. We need to make sure that these benefits and these things that we're talking about culture-wise impact everyone, and maybe not equally, because that's really hard to do, and we'll probably cover a little bit of that later, but that you are doing your best to reach those different areas. Make sure that you don't just have managers and supervisors on your team. You need to have a little bit of every type of position. You don't have to have a huge team. We only have about 6 people, I think, on our team right now, maybe 7. But we have someone who's been with the city for less than 2 years. We have people in upper management. We have people who have worked their way up through the organization. So just make sure that you're kind of keeping those things in mind as you set this group up. And then consider changing the group annually, or at least maybe every other year. I will admit that this is one of those things that maybe we could do better at. One of those things that lessons learned. I think that we're not great at changing that up all the time, but that we want to give different folks opportunities to participate. So what we do is do that through other committees. So we have a management advisory committee and employee engagement committees and different things where these people can be represented and share their feedback. And then recognize that just that diverse group helps to provide varying viewpoints. So now you've got your team, everybody's in place and you're ready to move to the next step. The first thing you need to do is to establish goals. Is our goal to just improve culture overall? Or are we trying to attract employees? Are we trying to retain employees, or both? And then what do we want that end result to be? Those goals need to be established early on and kind of kept in the forefront as you go through this process. And then determine how often you're going to meet. We met a lot at first when we first launched this, and now we try to meet monthly. There were some times where we weren't meeting very often, where things were just not maybe a priority at that moment, or we were doing a lot behind the scenes, and so we didn't need to meet as often. But make sure that you're meeting on a regular basis. And then make sure that you're having like an annual meeting to kind of recharge and re-energize your team. You want to talk a little bit about the wins?
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I answer everybody's questions too. So somebody did ask about the size of our workforce, and what we do have quite a few employees. And maybe you're like, well, I don't even have an HR department. I am HR. Just make sure you get people in the room that are not just all the same. You can't just fill the room with folks that are at City Hall. You need to have your field staff, somebody from your public works or your police, or have a diverse group in the room is really what we're encouraging. Being adaptable and don't be afraid to fail. I think, we started this before COVID, and I will tell you that one of the things on our never going to happen list was work from home, and now it is part of a policy, and people have agreements, and we make that work. But something that we have found in Wentzville in general, and I think a lot of local government employees have a hard time, is celebrating the wins and really understanding how big of a deal it is that you've implemented paid parental leave, for example. For us, I think that's a huge deal. Our board was very supportive of that. They did it in a context that worked for them. So our policy requires that you're at the city for at least a year, but both parents are eligible and it's completely paid. And that was life-changing, honestly, for a lot of people. And I'll talk about some other things that we've done, but just know that everything you try is not going to be amazing, and that's okay. People really do appreciate the effort, and maybe you try something that you don't think is going to work and it actually goes really well. So just keep an open mind.
I'll let you kind of walk through a few more of these.
Yes, so this is exciting. So, and I'm going to talk about how we worked with loggers specifically on our loggers enhancement. So I talked about the paid parental leave. We changed our vacation accrual. So like most cities and agencies, when we hired somebody new, they had to wait 6 months that they got their time. And then, we were coming into issues where people needed time for whatever reason, maybe even they were sick. So we just gave it to them as they earned it. We didn't make them wait 6 months to get their 40 hours. If they earn it, 6.67 hours, then they get their 6.67 hours as they earn it. For our regular part-time employees, so our employees that work 28 hours a week or up to 28 hours, they are just as critical and important and are there maybe every day, just not as long as our full-time employees. So once they were there for a year, they get a week of paid vacation, equivalent to it's about 24, 28 hours, because they should have paid time off as well. We enhanced our bereavement leave to include cohabitating partners. And we found a lot of people that maybe lived with somebody for a very long time. There's a lot of reasons people weren't getting married, that they could take leave if their partner's parent, which included that language that they could use those leave times. We included bariatric surgery in our plan for health. We got asked about that many times. We include flexible working arrangements now. There's for folks who are risk mitigators, there's actual agreement that they all sign when they do that. We added insurance coverages that folks asked for. We have pet insurance. It's completely voluntary. The city doesn't pay for it. We just have it as a payroll deduction. That also includes legal insurance, same thing. We had a very complicated, we had like 3 or 4 options for our 457B. We consolidated that and got a competitive group offering for our staff. And then I'll come back to the loggers enhancement, but we also this last year added a $0 premium insurance plan. And that's been really great for staff. It's called a narrow network plan, and that's been very successful so far. But the loggers enhancement, we worked with logger staff to enhance our program. So I was with the city of St. Peters before this, and we were a contributory plan. And so my first paycheck in Wentzville, I called payroll and I said, "Oh, you forgot to take out my 4% for my loggers." And I said, "Oh no, we are non-contributory here." The plan was less though. And so we worked with loggers. We kept hearing, "You all are only focusing on new people. They're getting all the benefits. What about the people who've been here a long time?" And so we started looking at our retirement plans. So we worked with loggers, we worked with the actuaries, ran numbers, and came up with 2 options that were potentially feasible financially. And we brought loggers out to do on-site educational sessions. And then we had the employees vote if they wanted to go from a non-contributory plan, stay with what we're doing, or look at 2 other plans that they would be contributory. And overwhelmingly, we had support for the plan that we're on now, and it's an enhancement. And so the employees have been very, very happy with that. We made sure that our pay plan that year equated to that contributory. So it was a 4% mandatory contribution, and it was about that for most employees when we did our pay that year. And there's no way that this would have passed without the support of loggers, because sometimes employees want to hear it. Jenny and I were talking before, they want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And so when we actually did a survey right before I started a few years ago, nobody wanted to go to a contributory plan. They had just the information wasn't properly, I wasn't there, Kara, you were there, but maybe the information wasn't shared the same way that it was this time around. And I think it was like 98% voted in favor of a contributory plan to enhance their loggers.
This is you too.
Yay. Okay. So I'll come back to us straight from the horse's mouth, because these city administrator updates that we do are really, really great. They're so easy if you're not doing it. And you can do it in a way that works for you. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but you have to tell people, I know, if you're like in a department that communicates, if you're in HR or admin, even like leadership, you're like, man, we've told them this, 5 times. How could they not know about this? And it's just, people have tons of information going on, and maybe it's been filtered. And and they, just don't understand. So hearing it straight from the horse's mouth goes a long way, but also telling people like your existing internal groups to help explain why something has changed really goes a long way. So we have an employee communications ambassadors group. We have what we call management advisory council, which is made up of non-supervisory employees. And there's somebody from every group or every department in that. And they meet with the city administrator quarterly to discuss different issues, to ask questions. That's a very successful group. Using your frontline communications staff or your the customer service staff to help explain to the public why something might have changed is really, really important. And we realized this during COVID, how important it was to educate our employees. So we had to temporarily furlough some of our park staff. We didn't know that fund runs like a business. It's an enterprise fund. So it was temporary. And so we were trying to explain to internally and externally why we would temporarily furlough these parks department staff whenever we have money in our capital budget. And it was about explaining, we promised the taxpayers we would never spend these capital dollars on anything other than capital or transportation or whatever. So I'm going to show you the budget video first, and then we're just going to show you a quick clip. And this program is free. Is that right, Kara?
Yeah, there's a free version, yes.
So this is called Powtoon, and people I think are like, oh, well, they have all this money and all these tools. Everything that we're showing you is free, and so we'll show this real quick. And I'm going to talk through it a little bit. But we use this now for newly elected officials to help them educate themselves on the budget. We actually played it during our budget meetings 2 years ago so that the public could understand. And it's just a short video, and we're not going to show the whole thing, that we think helps people understand, how government budgeting works. And so we think it's been pretty helpful. We work with our finance staff and admin and others. So don't want to put anybody to sleep learning about budgeting this afternoon. So the other thing we do are city administrator updates, and we use Canva, which is actually what we're using to present this right now. And Canva is amazing because you can do all kinds of things, but this specifically, we try to do these live. This one happens to be recorded. So if you are a person that wants to stop and record again, our city administrator does quarterly updates with citywide, and they're super short. And I'm gonna let Kara show a quick clip so that you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces out there. And just a quick introduction for those employees who I haven't had an opportunity to meet yet. I'm Doug Lee, I'm the city administrator. I've been with the city about 18 years between public works and city administration. And really just want to thank everybody for showing up for the town hall meeting this morning. Look forward to getting just some new information out to you and then having an opportunity to answer any questions for you at the end of the presentation. Just a quick highlight on some of the things we're going to be looking to cover is we're going to go over our employee survey, the Intergage survey that was completed the first part of the year. We're going to talk through a little bit about what those results mean and then just the history and background as to why we went through that and what we're doing with it moving forward. We're going to touch on our compensation and classification study, give a little bit of a description of things we're maybe doing a little different than what you may have seen in the past, and then also just talk about timing in the process and what to look at through the rest of the year.
Okay, well, go ahead and stop. But you can see this is only 8 minutes long. If you saw at the bottom, 8.5 minutes that the city administrator does. Super easy, and you can reach everybody because it's a link and you can send it out and everybody has it. So PD, if they're on nights and they can't attend live, that's fine. They can watch it later. We host it on our intranet. It's super easy. I had two questions come in. I'm going to answer really quick. One was about birthday cards. And yes, we do birthday cards. Our mayor actually comes in and makes sure that he signs every single birthday card. It's incredible. It's super time consuming, but he does do that. And then if somebody wants to email me, they're asking about our work from home and flexible working arrangement policy. It's a big, long policy. It's not that long, but if you just email me, I will actually send it to you. But we don't have anybody working from home 100% of the time. We have some people working 410s, and we have some people that work from home every Friday. And it just is based on each department and that supervisor and that employee. So we can send those out. Absolutely. I just want to make sure I hit everything. We did shift our newsletter from HR to communications, although that's kind of shifted back. So that's been kind of a back and forth thing. Employee communication ambassadors, we definitely use those groups. And we make sure that we let our frontline staff know what's going on, especially about things in the community. It is incredibly important that that staff feels empowered to answer questions.
So I think this is the part that's kind of the fun part. So we've gone through these stages, we've talked about process, we've set up our culture guru team or whatever fancy name you're going to call yourselves. But now the fun part, because you get to make a list. So you get to think outside the box and think about, maybe you go have your own inspirational ice cream sandwich. I like the idea. I just finished up another planning session with another group, and we talked a little bit about blue sky ideas. So just think about those big picture things that maybe you won't get to do them, but maybe you will. So we started with this list and we added every idea that anybody had. And we had a column for yes, no, and maybe. Later, we changed the no column to not right now, because as Jessica mentioned before, we had never work from home on our list and COVID hit. And now we've kind of ebbed and flowed with that a little bit, but it's kind of great to have that option now. So what makes you different? So when we're talking about who our competitors are, what makes your city stand out, think outside the box, and again, alleviate that. We've always done it that way because that's what box we put ourselves in a lot of times as local government. That's why we've done it. That's why we're going to continue to do it. This makes sense, but maybe it doesn't make sense anymore, or maybe there's a better way to do it or a process improvement that can change. So make your list and put everything on it and then see what sticks.
And something that I hear a lot too, more so than even that's the way we've always done it, is, well, that's not fair. And our business is inherently not fair. It's our police officers with loggers, they cost more. I mean, that's not fair. And that's okay. They have different schedules. Maybe somebody feels it's not fair that certain people get 30-minute lunches and other people get an hour, but they have to work longer. That's okay. That actually makes an opportunity for us to cater different things to different departments. And I think that folks just really have a hard time with that fairness piece. We just need to meet people where they are and ask them what they want.
So back to our list, this is just some of the more fun ideas. These were things that either didn't cost us anything or were very inexpensive. We've done multiple lunch and learns about topics from sustainability to we watched all the King's Horses. Is that what that one? No, I just
Queens,
make
all the Queen's
all
horses.
the Queen's Horses, which is a documentary about a finance department in Illinois. We've done lots of different things. Just invite people to come bring their lunch to the board chamber. We play the documentary or whatever the case may be on the big screen and let people just relax for a little bit. We've had a mammogram van that comes at least once to City Hall, and this is just to make it easy for people to not have to leave during the day and go to a doctor's visit. We have a prize wheel, which is kind of silly, but it's something that we got for a launch of a project that we were working on, and we've been able to use it other times to just have a little bit of fun. We've talked about having a special parking spot for somebody who might win a contest or things like that. We've changed our dress code. We're actually going through the process right now of updating that policy to be a dress for your day policy. So just depending on what types of meetings you have, whether that's internal or external, or maybe you're going to present on a webinar or something like that, and you might just have to shift what you're wearing for the day. But if you're just going to sit behind your desk and not interact with the public, maybe you're in jeans and a sweater. It's still a professional way to be dressed, but with giving people some flexibility. We use interns quite regularly. I actually have 5 high school interns right now, which yes is a lot, but is also awesome to not just have them help us with communications and community relations things. We work with a process through the county through a high school intern program that they put on, but we actually use it as an opportunity to encourage them to look at local government as a career choice, and we wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise. We do food trucks, and we participate in City Hall Selfie Day. We've had pumpkin decorating contest and ugly sweater contest. Bring a Child to Work Day is something that we did for several years. We took a break over COVID and we brought it back last year with everybody loved it. It's a great way to, again, not just about bringing with that group, about bringing families to work, which is also awesome to interact and see our employees interacting with other people's kids, but also just to say, hey, maybe local government isn't such a bad place to be. Just encouraging that. We've had employee picnics. We even had a mobile escape room where the escape room parked on the back lot and groups were able to go through that. It's a great opportunity for team building without groups having to actually take time out of their day and leave City Hall. So just have fun. These are just some pictures from some of our fun things that we've done over the years, and just remember to have fun when you're doing this.
And about the food trucks too, people are like, oh, everything just takes so much time. I need money, I need planning. We just asked the food trucks to show up and told people, hey, the food trucks will be here between 11 and 1. Go get yourself a coffee, and they pay for their own coffee. Now we've talked about, in the future, do we pay for that? Yes, maybe, but it was not hard. You just ask them to come, they come, tell people that they're going to be there, and that's it. And
speaking of the coffee truck, like we actually had them come to our public works facility, and we had them come really early so that they could hit that crowd before they went out in the field. And they loved it. Jessica always talks about how they were ordering their fancy cappuccinos and things, but they loved it. And again, they paid for it, but it was just a way to recognize, hey, we know you're working hard for us and we appreciate what you're doing, and we want to offer this kind of fun opportunity for you.
So I just told you, hey, a lot of things are free and you can do it for free, but at some point, you are going to have to make a financial investment. Start easy though, especially if your culture is not great. I mean, honestly, some of this stuff's super easy and might go a really long way. But we have started looking at some of these, some we've already implemented. We're looking at our tuition reimbursement program now, because I don't know if you all know, but school is weird now, and they're doing like micro certifications and what's tuition and what's not. These traditional programs are not happening as often as they are. So does a certification that's maybe not super specific to their job count for tuition reimbursement, or do we just pay for it? One of the things that came out of our Management Advisory Council is our payroll day shift. And what I mean by that is our park staff, they work a lot of weekend events. And so prior to the shift, our payroll started on a Sunday. And that was really difficult for them because they would have to kind of guess which day or which days they might need to flex. And if an event gets canceled on the weekend, then they have to fill in with vacation time, or if they have to come in and try to figure out something to do. And so they just said, hey, if we started it on Saturday instead of Sunday, we would know, because the weekend starts on Saturday. And so we would know, hey, if that event gets canceled, we just work a normal week, Monday through Friday, or if it doesn't, we can flex our time the rest of the week and know if we need to be there or not. And there was one wonky payroll, and PD was like, oh my gosh, change, heaven forbid there's change. And we worked through it with them, and it didn't affect anyone else, and it was pretty life-changing for that group. So think about those things and don't say no just because it's hard to do one time for one payroll. We added the part-time vacation, which I mentioned. When we looked at our vacation policy overall, we went ahead and credited our part-time employees for the credit for their vacation that they were working part-time. And so what I mean by that is Kara was hired as a part-time employee, and she worked part-time for 2 years. 3 years. And when we promoted her to full-time, at that time, we were like, yep, you're just basically starting from scratch. You have to start over. You got to wait 6 months to get any time off. And when we looked and changed this policy, we were like, that's not fair. That person, these people, again, 28 hours a week is still a lot of time. So we went ahead and said, you fall in the bucket that you start when you're with your hire date for your part-time. So if she started in 2014, she doesn't
count for loggers, but
doesn't count for loggers. That's true. But we went ahead and said that they have that many years of service, because they technically have that many years of service. So and it's already hard going from part-time to full-time. You're losing this extra time that you might have had. So we do credit them for that now. We have paid parental leave, which I mentioned, and I talked about the bereavement leave. And these have been just really, I keep saying the word life-changing, but it is for a lot of people. All right, and so what we're trying to do, and I talked to a manager last week and they're like, yeah, nobody can hire PD. We can't fill positions, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, we have one vacancy and it's because someone just retired. We do not have vacancies in our police department. Some of these positions where folks are like, oh gosh, we can't hire anybody. I'm not saying we're getting hundreds of applications, because we're certainly not. We're just doing things a little bit differently. And I think a lot of it is because we're trying to tell people like how great it is to be in Wentzville. When I accepted this position, a lot of people were like, ooh, good luck. And they said that to Kara too. Wentzville did have some turnover and some issues that they had to work through. And now we are sorry if you're one of the St. Charles County cities that we're stealing employees from, but we try not to steal. We don't like poach people, but now we're competitive with other agencies that we were not even close to being competitive with before. But at the end of the day, we only have so many positions, and we want to give you all, we will share everything, and we will talk. We have had calls with people all over the country about this, because again, we can only hire so many. We really are passionate about people being in local government service, and we need to continue to keep good people in local government service. And so whatever ideas you want to steal, they're all yours. But we need to continue to tout how great you are, how great your organization is, and look at those award programs. So in the St. Louis area, there's top workplaces through the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. You don't have to pay for it. You do have to pay for the results if you want them, but you can still get the award if you want. So we have won multiple years. We're going to use the engagement survey again that they use, and it's 100% on employee feedback. We have a best places to work, which is a business side, but we have won that as well. And then ELGL, which we've mentioned a couple of times, is engaging local government leaders. They have a Meagle Award, which is Donna Meagle, which is another Parks and Rec reference. Seriously, if you haven't watched it, go check it out.
So now you've done all these things, and as you know, with any kind of program that you launch, you have to evaluate and see how it's working. So we're going to talk just a little bit about this. So you need to pick out what you're going to measure and use the metrics that you have available. Definitely start small, ask for help from your staff, and then, as Jessica mentioned, empower your staff to help you implement these changes. This should tie back to your goal. So did you decide that you were going to do this for attraction or retention, or did you decide that you just want to improve culture overall? So make sure that those metrics that you're looking for kind of tie back to what your original goals were. Jessica mentioned this too, but putting your money where your mouth is, there's going to be things that require an investment, and this is necessary to both recruit and retain those valuable employees. We learned that by being small and strategic, and by being prepared to make that investment, and by communicating, that we found ways to enhance those culture with very little. We didn't push too much out there, but our ROI was extremely high. I think we've been very successful with this, and we have noticed ways as we've rolled these things out, whether they're small ideas or big ones that are costing us money, that we can see this making an impact in people's lives. We can see what's going to work long term, what maybe we need to shift and change. That we had on that list originally the dress code, and what that dress code meant when we originally made this presentation several years ago and put all of this together means a totally different thing from what it means today with our new dress for your day policy. So there are things that are going to change over time, and I think you just have to be ready to make those changes as you go through the process.
And so we told you we'd share some lessons learned. And so just know that this doesn't happen overnight. Culture is not a one-time barbecue. That's not culture. It's not, bringing the coffee truck out one time. It's all the time. And yes, it can be exhausting, but I promise you the return on investment is there. It's incredible. You're not going to have vacancies. You're like you would have, not because of culture, at least. And not everything will make the cut. We push our current city administrator all the time about this bring your dog to work day. And so we compromised and we did a pet adoption day. We brought some dogs on site. I'm still gonna keep pushing for that.
There were 2 dogs that they brought and one was adopted. So that was definitely a success.
By one of our employees. So that was really neat. Some people will just think this is the dumbest thing ever, like anything cult related, anything that does not work, it is not work. And so why are we doing it? And so just know that that's going to happen. And don't make decisions in a vacuum. And we did learn this the hard way with some things. And you just have to know, again, all of us, we have a variety of different, divisions or businesses is what we say sometimes. You have police and probably fire and water, wastewater, whatever you have. So just know that just because it works for this group, it may not work for another one. And make sure your leadership teams understand why you're doing this. So you can't just say, we need to be great because there needs to be something. If your intent is for retention or attraction, or because you want to be the best city to work for in the whole entire world, that's fine. But make sure that everybody understands the why. And that keep a wish list for the future. We used to say when we started this initiative, we're never gonna have nap pods and work from home. I'm like, man, I don't know if we would say no to nap pods. If somebody wanted to donate nap pods, would we say no? So, I think it's just don't say no, but maybe not right now. And I think just continuing to look at those things is going to be really important and critical for success.
Just a super quick recap. We covered at the beginning in the agenda that we're going to make a culture a priority, that you're going to then establish your team, involve your employees along the way, make your list, get yourself recognized, and then measure success. And I think the most important part of all of this is that you keep moving forward, because after you get to the end of this timeline or line here, it shouldn't be linear. It's a circle, and you're going to just start right back where you're going and continue to make culture a priority and continue to evolve your team and involve your employees and on and on. And then make sure, again, just want to reiterate that those meetings are ongoing. You're not just going to have one meeting and say, we're going to be the best team and our culture is going to be great, and then just let it die. So I'm going to go ahead and blip to the next slide so that if anybody wants our contact information so they can ask more questions or reach out about policies and things like that, certainly feel free to do that. We have some more questions.
I don't see any right this moment, but now's your time. I dropped our Powtoon link into the chat. So if you didn't see that, please feel free to look at that.
We can also share that as a template if you email us as well.
So somebody asked a contributory plan with 4%. So depends what loggers plan that you're on. You can have a variety of plans. They can be contributory or non-contributory. Prior to this change, we were on a 1.5. I'm so sorry, loggers. I really wish I could remember all the numbers, but our multiplier was 1.5. We went without 80 and out or anything. Oh, Ginny's going to help me.
Now 1.5 is known as the L7 benefit program.
Okay.
You've got it.
We were on the L7 and our employees did not pay into that. The city paid 100% of that. So we looked at a couple of plans. I think we looked at an LT plan, which had the multiplier of 2 until 65 and then 1.5 after 65. Or we looked at the L7 plan, and Ginny, correct me if I'm wrong, which is the 2 multiplier without 80 and out. And our employees said, hey, we want to do the L7, which is the 2 multiplier, and we are willing to contribute.
L6, right?
Jessica, L6.
L6, sorry,
you,
L6. So we can have our 2 multiplier with 80 and out. And so I think if one of the Jeffs is on here, I can't remember which, but we had an employee say, look, I'm going to retire next year. Like, I don't even know why I would want to do this. And everybody's like, are you crazy? You're going to benefit the most from this because it counts for all of your service. Retroactive. Thank you. And so that was very helpful for our tenured employees. So hopefully that answers your question. And I don't know, Jeff, if you were, I know that you were kind of involved with some of these, if you wanted to share any insights about how you experienced those. We have the other Jeff there. What other questions do you all have?
Well, while people are maybe working on typing in their questions, I do want to just jump in and say again, thank you, Kara, and thank you, Jessica, for taking time today to share your experience in the city's trials and accomplishments throughout this time. I applaud you as well as everybody else in attendance today for taking that initiative to really invest in your workplace, because you get to know your workplace best. You know your employees best. You're working with them day in and day out. And so the fact that you're here today to help promote a positive and optimal workplace, keep in mind, loggers is happy to be part of that. As mentioned, loggers can be tailored. You have 4 elections to your benefits through loggers that can be adjusted throughout time, whether it's upgrades or even downgrades. Upgrades, as Jessica mentioned, those are retroactive. Downgrades, they are not retroactive. So please don't fear that if you're needing to look at budgetary, or perhaps you're developing and evolving workforce doesn't prioritize retirement as greatly and you're looking to change an election that would result in a downgrade, that does not affect current active employees' earned service and benefits. It only affects from that point forward of adoption. If you have further questions about the elections that you can change with regards to your loggers plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or our team. We'll be happy to walk you through that process too. But again, seeing that we are just a pixel of the larger picture, it's great to hear about all the other benefits at little to no cost that you can implement to boost morale and dedication from your team. So thank you again, ladies, for doing so. Yes, and again, if you have questions, we'll keep the webinar going for a little bit to allow those to roll in. I know I'll be adding Parks and Rec to my watch list on Netflix now, so thank you for that, Jessica.
It's almost a little too real sometimes, so but it's something to help to laugh at. But yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions roll in, but again, our contact information is there, and we have, like I said, we've met with cities in Ohio and other Midwest cities, and obviously in the state of Missouri. So we love talking about this. We're very passionate about it. Everybody's city is a little bit different, so we're happy to talk through those issues.
Great. Well, and seeing no further questions at this time, we'll go ahead and conclude today's webinar, but please remember there will be a recording of this available on Loggers YouTube channel by next week. There was a request about copies of the PowerPoint. I'll be happy to email copies of today's PowerPoint to those in attendance. So you should expect to see that by end of business today.
That link I shared with you is open to anyone, so they can flip through that as well. That's what I used to show this too.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kara. All right. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe.
Thanks.